Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Swedish metal band Avatar. The band's new album, Hunter Gatherer, will be released on August 7th via Century Media Records. Now, Duncan, I'm pretty sure I reviewed an Avatar album when Rock and Roll Reviews was on the go. I want to say it was Hail the Apocalypse in 2015. I think I had a look at the album artwork and I'm pretty sure that was it. But, you know, with my dementia-like memory, that may be inaccurate. But,
also the fact you've listened to about 7 million albums this year, just alone, and well, let's not multiply that back 6 years. So
yeah, I think it was the album that had the kind of really cool kind of guitar tone. It was very like down-tuned, where they would use that like bottom, kind of thick bottom string for the kind of more bouncy, rhythmical riffs. But I seem to remember that kind of tone disappearing from the albums that kind of followed on. This band have also been known for their quirky side, and have been compared to in the past a bit of a Dog Fashion Disco, which I know does all sorts of things for you.
I love me some Dog Fashion Disco, Dave. One day, I live in hope that one day, because it happens every now and again, not often with you, Dave, but every now and again there'll be a band that I used to heavily try and push on you that you were just like, nah, and then every now and again there'll be some strange mess you'll be like, you know what I was listening to recently, and there'll be name check band, and then you'll be like that. I actually really like that album. I'm like, fuck's sake, Dave.
I know.
So I'm like in the house trying to get my wife to watch TV shows, and she's like, I'm not interested. And then one of her fucking friends at the gym says, have you checked out this? And then all of a sudden she's a fan. I'm like, you bitch. Which is what I'm like with you. So yeah, I can see the comparisons. I don't think they're entirely apt, but I can see the comparisons.
No, I know. And I think I'm kind of, as you say, kind of hit and miss with that, depending on how it's executed. And they did seem to add a little more of that kind of humour on the last couple albums, which didn't really do much for me. Although there were certain tracks from those albums, like Avatar Country, which was 2018. There was a couple of kind of the more groovy tracks, which I quite liked, King's Harvest and stuff. On Hunter Gatherer, however, it definitely feels like the band have taken a far kind of darker and aggressive route, and you can hear that from the kind of opening two tracks. Silence in the Ages of Apes is a very metallic, kind of hard-hitting track with plenty of kind of up-tempo, aggressive riffs, and then Colossus, on the other hand, is a kind of more groove-heavy feel, where the riffs feel a bit more kind of weighty, the drums just kind of groove out. And Johannes Eckerstrom's vocals have a kind of real kind of bark to them. But if you were worrying that the band had removed all of their quirky traits from this album, then you can take a breath of relief. Because you start to hear that kind of bleeding into A Secret Door, which has a lot more kind of melodic passages, musically and vocally, than the first two tracks. But there's still a kind of dark, peculiar kind of feel to the whole thing, partly down to the creepy whistle. We've in the last 2 weeks, to give away a little bit of time recording here, we lost maestro and master composer Ennio Morricone, and I've been listening to shitloads of Ennio Morricone, who was a firm fan of the whistle. And a lot of his spaghetti westerns in particularly, listening to that. So I've been listening to a lot of whistling, and more whistling than I've ever listened to in my entire fucking life. And then I shoved on Avatar over the weekend, and fucking track 3, the whistle's kicking. I was like, oh jeez, it's following me now. It's fucking following me over in this world. I will say I like it. I think it's more whistling and metal, please. It's provided by Mr. Corey Taylor.
Is it now?
It is indeed, yeah.
did not know that Sly son of a bitch had such a central whistle tone.
I actually quite liked the track though.
Yeah, it's a great track.
Had a little bit of a System of a Down streak to it.
Interesting. I was going to say that of the kind of quirkiness in here, there are the occasional foray and kind of shadows of new metal that dance through this album that I thought were refreshing, because they don't play it like you would expect. But here comes the bouncy riff, and like jump the fuck up, everyone. It's kind of used in interesting ways to add a bounce to the song without all the luggage that comes with that, if you know what I mean. And it never overstays in any track when they do bring it in. They just come in to get a bit of their groove on. Sorry, shoot me. And then they get out of there. So I kind of dug it. Yeah.
Actually, one of my notes was Nothingface. Picked up a little bit of Nothingface on this album, especially on God of Sick Dreams, which vocally really sticks in your head, and musically it felt like a kind of mashup of like In Flames meets Nothingface. It was really weird, but I kind of liked it.
There's an In Flamesy sort of melody element that kicks in, which I really like. I know, right, there's people out there fucking Jester Race or nothing, and I get what you're saying, but to me In Flames became far more interesting when they started doing a bit more of the melody. Sorry, shoot me, but I don't give a fuck. And Avatar definitely have. I didn't know where they were from, so see when you wrote, see when you said to me Sweden at the start of this review, I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Yes.
It does, yeah. The second half of the album, we'll start off with track 6,
Say
Child.
Dave, just get out your system.
Child, which is track 6. I started to lose a little bit of interest here. For the verses, they start to veer back into territory that's a smidge too cookie for me. Chorus-wise, I kind of liked the execution and the kind of tightness of the riffs and the rhythms, but overall, not my favourite track. And to be honest, I kind of felt like the second half of the album wasn't quite as strong as the first half of the album. Gun is the kind of piano ballad track on the album, which I'm not a huge fan of anyway.
Because you're soul.
That's true. But vocally, I found it, sorry to say, a wee bit irritating actually on that
whiny
track. Yeah. On the album Closer, Wormhole, I did enjoy that kind of detuned guitar tone, which kind of harked back to that album I was talking about at the beginning, Hail the Apocalypse. I thought it was a kind of clever idea to use it only on that one track. It definitely had more of an impact that way. Although it had the kind of heaviness factor, it wasn't the most memorable track to close the album with, but it was better than the previous track, When All But Force Has Failed, which just kind of lacked any form of hook or punch, I thought. So a bit of a... Really enjoyed the first half of the album. Second half of the album, a bit patchy. What about yourself? What did you think of the rest of the album?
We are not too dissimilar. I know people are going to get sick of us agreeing on absolutely everything. We're not that too dissimilar. To be honest with you, I really enjoyed the first half of this album. Essentially everything 1 through 5. I think is interesting, is varied, is mixed, is catchy when it needs to be, is diverse enough without just sounding like, well, they're just trying to make every track sound different, or know. There was a through line as well which really worked for me. The second half of the album, it almost sounds like that kind of through line's missing, and it would not surprise me if the back half of this album had been written at a different time. It just didn't feel cohesively in line with the rest of the songs on Hunter Gatherer. And I'm kind of with you. I like what the piano is doing on Gun, but the vocals are more than just a little bit off-putting for me. They're just that it just doesn't have the same. Saccharin's not the right word, but there is a kind of sacchariness to some of the melodies earlier on in the album where I was like, oh, that's really cool, or that's a nice hook that they've done. as like a counterpoint to what the kind of the rest of the instrumentation's done, and it just didn't. It just sounded very safe. Cookie Cutter maybe is. I don't think. I think Cookie Cutter is maybe an unfair thing to throw at them, because there is still bits that are happening that caught me a bit by surprise or unawares. But it's kind of like the second half of the album just loses the kind of focus that the first half does, where everything really does feel like it's there for a purpose and carries through, and then it just kind of meanders. Whilst not being boring, it just meanders into territory which doesn't feel fitting for the album at front. So I don't know how many albums I've got out, and I don't know how this will play for them. If this is a case of, there's so many albums in that they only need a good 3 or 4 songs to take off this one to churn out live. Because you know how bands get to that stage where they've got so many albums, like, we're only releasing an album as an excuse to tour, and we're only playing 2 songs of this new album because people don't want to hear anything else. Anything through the first 5 would be really interesting to hear live. Anything in the back 5, maybe, I don't know. It was a weird listen overall. I thought there were elements in here that were really, really captivating, and A Secret Door might be the standout track to me, mostly because I dug the whistling, I like the melody, I love the instrumentation, I love how it built. It's one of the longer tracks on the album, and it just kept me interested from start to finish. And even opening 2 tracks just have a bounce and a groove and a jive about them that I really enjoy. But yeah, I don't. If I ever come back to listen to Avatar again, for Hunter Gatherer, I likely won't listen past track 5. And up to that point, it had me fully in, and my interest started to wane in the second half. So I'm weirdly agreeing with you, whilst at the same time not fully agreeing with you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's a really tricky album to rate as well, because the first half of the album, for me, it had some of the best material I've heard from Avatar. It's riff heavy, it's dynamic, it's catchy, and I love the kind of dark tone they've went with on this album. Second half of the release, it was just a bit too patchy in places for me. It didn't have the same appeal. I felt myself wanting to skip certain tracks because they were either starting to become a bit tedious, or there was an element starting to kind of irritate me a bit. So yeah, tricky one to rate. Rating wise, where are you thinking about? I'm thinking
I'm a 3.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I'm thinking.
We need to find an album we completely disagree on, because I'm sick of this agreement. I genuinely feel. I think maybe if you're a hardcore Avatar fan, this plays a lot better for you. Not being fully familiar with their stuff, it definitely felt like the first half grabbed my attention and made me want to check out more of their stuff. But the second half of the album was like, well, if the rest of their stuff's kind of like this, I don't know how keen that'll be to shunt it up. But I'll give them this. They're not a band that do things by half measures. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're all in. They're it's like all for one, and if you don't like it, fuck off. But yeah, I had quite a bit of fun with it overall. But yeah, 3 feels right.
Yeah, I'm the same. 3 out of 5. If you want to check out the band, check them out on Facebook, facebook.com/Avatar Metal. And this album drops on August 7th. It's called Hunter Gatherer, and it'll be released on Century Media Records. That's our review, guys. Thank you for checking it out. And until next time, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.